Welcome to the Art of Slowing Down to Quantum Leap podcast that I created especially for conscious introvert entrepreneurs. And if you desire to grow and quantum scale without the hustle and are ready to discover the missing pieces to effortlessly running a soul-aligned business, then this is for you. And I'm your host, Analena, a human design and energetic alignment coach. And my mission with this podcast is to provide you with a shortcut to your most aligned path to success and financial freedom using a powerful combination of human design, science, and spirituality. And I myself have shifted from working 9 to 5 to now enjoying the freedom of creating things on my own terms. And I want to help you do the same. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Art of Slowing Down podcast. It is your host here, Analena. And today I decided I wanted to take a little bit of time to share with you a little bit more from my own journey being an online entrepreneur as a highly sensitive, more on the introverted side entrepreneur. And in particular, I want to also talk about my podcasting journey, what I believe are some of the main benefits of having a podcast. And before we dive into that, obviously, I also want to remind you that I right now actually have an amazing course that launches on January 25th. It's called Easy Podcast Launch, where I will guide a group of amazing humans that are ready to launch their very own podcast. And obviously, those benefits that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, there will be an integral part of what this course is also going to be about. And before we now dive deeper into that, I want to share with you a little bit of how my journey started in this business world, where I started my own business. So in 2018, I left corporate. I was actually fired, but I wanted to leave for a little while. So I was basically asking for it, and the universe was like, okay, Analena, if you're not going to quit yourself, I'm going to let you go. So it was also a gift. And one of the things that I did very early on was to look for programs or other people that I thought had the solution, that had the answer to, okay, this is how I'm going to make money in my business. And what I did first was I invested into a very expensive, I think it was 11,000 US dollar at the time. It was a high ticket 8-week program, and it was all about teaching you how to create a signature high ticket program yourself and basically attract clients through Facebook ads. And you were creating like a webinar structure, going through all these different steps. And I very quickly learned that was not the right thing for me. And at the time, I wasn't really into human design and these things. I thought, oh, if it works for them, it's going to work for me. And I just realized, oh boy, what did I do here? And then also, of course, I learned that you had to invest a lot more money besides the money I invested into the course, because Facebook ads, for example, is something that does cost a lot of money. And there's certain systems that you also had to use to do the things that were suggested in the program. They also came with a lot of additional fees that at the time I didn't have the money for. And so I felt a little bit discouraged, obviously. I felt that I didn't have what it takes. And I realized that I'm not going to be able to continue with this, because in order to make it work, I had to keep investing into the program, because obviously most people were not able to achieve what they thought they were going to achieve after 8 weeks. That's a very short amount of time, right? Especially now looking back, I was like, what was I thinking to think that I could just make this happen in 8 short weeks? And then along my journey, I still oftentimes got so influenced when people were telling me, I have the solution for you. You have to follow these steps, and this is what's going to work because it worked for me. And luckily, it was, especially with human design and the gene keys, that I realized that I have to do it my way. And the thing that's going to be successful for me and works long term in a sustainable way is not necessarily, or most likely not, what has worked for some other person. And as the years have gone by, I have learned that obviously consistency is something we cannot really get around with. We got to show up in some way over and over again to connect with our ideal people, to create like and trust with people. And yeah, sometimes people, they find you for the first time and they buy something right away. But for the most part, I think we purchase products, offices, and services from companies or humans and coaches that we have known for a little bit, where there is a sense of trust. And usually that does take a little bit of time. So one of the things, as you know, that I have been doing here on this podcast is I have been showing up every single week for the last 2 years. And so I wanted to share with you what I think are the 5 biggest benefits of actually having your own podcast. And maybe I'm going to weave in some more benefits as I go along. So the first thing is that what I just mentioned, consistency and also accountability, because when I first became an online entrepreneur, the freedom was amazing. Okay, I can just work whenever I want. I'm going to go with my flow. But then there's so many days where you're just not feeling like it. And it was a fact for me that it was easier for me to do something for a boss that told me what I had to do when I was working in corporate than just to do it for myself. Because obviously I wasn't going to get mad at myself, or I wasn't going to get written up by myself. And that was a little bit of a hard pillow to swallow. And creating certain structures in my business has been very important. While, as you know me, I love to go with the flow and really tap into my feminine, into my intuition. But if there's no structure whatsoever, that's the masculine, I do feel a little bit lost. And so when I made this decision in 2021 to launch a podcast, at the time I wasn't a mastermind. So I also had a lot of accountability and support to actually get it launched myself, because obviously I had these ideas in my head. Well, everybody's going to have a podcast. I'm just going to be one other fish in the big lake, and who's going to listen to me? But eventually I did it, and I was really happy I did. And in the beginning, I committed to showing up every other week, because I knew for myself, if I'm going to overcommit, it's not going to serve me well either. So I said, I'm going to show up at least every other week on this podcast. And then funnily enough, what actually happened is that I have been showing up every single week. And so this was this commitment. I made it to myself, but obviously also to you guys, to my audience, because I said, I'm going to do this. And when I say I'm going to do something, it's important for me to actually do it. And obviously, sometimes we do change our minds, and that's okay as well. But this was something I really waited for some time. I followed my strategy and authority as a manifesting generator. I sat with it for quite some time, did the envisioning phase, but it kept pulling me. And the universe kept showing things all around me that, Analena, you're supposed to have a podcast. And so for the last 2 years now, every single week, I'm sitting here recording something on my own, or I have a conversation with somebody else. It's like interview style podcast, and I put it out into the world. And this has helped me, because also every week I post on social media about it. And look, some weeks I'm not feeling it. I feel like, really, I have to get my podcast out today or tomorrow. And then I do it, and it feels so amazing, because I keep being in the momentum that I have already built. And the other thing that has helped me, obviously, also to keep going is you guys, because so many times you tell me, either you write me a message on social media, sometimes an email, or you tell me in a private session when you book a reading or something like this, of how amazing my podcast has been for you. And you may know from my story so far that I sometimes forget how amazing I am or how what I'm doing actually helps people. So it's so beautiful when you take the time and you let me know. So I want to thank you for this as well. And this has been also a big part of me staying consistent with that. And now this is another thing has helped me then with my weekly newsletter as well, because I started this a little bit later. I think it was 6 months after I actually started the podcast. I also started my weekly newsletter. And I have been also consistent for over a year and a half with that right now. And it's nice because every week in my newsletter, there's always a section, okay, what's new on my podcast this week? It's nice because even if I don't have to say much one week, at least I have my podcast I can talk about that came out for the week. So first thing, right? Accountability and consistency. It's a huge thing that a podcast can support you with. Now, the second thing is you become more independent from social media. And this was really intriguing for me because social media is something that I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with sometimes, because once you get into social media, you spend a lot of time on it, and I have gotten better with it. But there was one time a couple of years ago, I think, where I think Instagram didn't work for a whole day, and I freaked out a little bit. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Because I'm not going to be able to market myself if I don't have social media. And at the time, I also didn't have a weekly newsletter. So weekly email newsletter is also a way to not be solely dependent on social media. And I realized that when I have my podcast, this is something Holly, my sales and messaging coach at the time, she really pointed this out to me. Having a podcast is your own platform. People actually choose to listen to you every week or once a month or every 2 weeks, whatever the rate is that you share your episodes with your audience. And that was a big aha moment for me, because I don't like to be dependent on just one way of marketing myself and my business. And obviously social media for the most part is for free, but that also comes with being surrounded by thousands of other people. So the attention that you get from people on social media, I mean, obviously, yeah, you're going to get a like, and the more likes we get, usually that makes us feel like we're a superstar, but that doesn't mean anything. People that really spend some time with the content that you share, maybe also people that message you privately, that happens very rarely. If you look at statistics of how many people actually are on social media, or even the amount of followers that you have, and actually how many people actually deeply connect with you. So again, it can totally happen that tomorrow or next week or next year, these social media platforms totally change. Maybe they're going to start charging. Maybe they're going to disappear, or the algorithms are going to change like they always do. And you feel like everything that you have built up with a lot of hard effort and work over the last years is gone just like that. And also the followers you have on social media, they're not your followers. You don't own them. You don't even have their emails. And again, this is something that is pretty unstable. And I'm as a 4-line in human design, and I think we all humans have a need for stability and security in some way. I like to have different ways of how I support my business. It's just with my income stream. If I only have one way of having income into my business, that doesn't feel very secure. For me, it always feels good if I have different kind of avenues that I can reach out to my people, that I can communicate with my people. And obviously, as a manifesting generator, I love the variety. And again, I think all of us humans, we love variety. It's like sometimes I want to write, sometimes I want to talk, and I want to record my podcast. And even sometimes, like right now, I'm just recording my voice, but other days I also do the video and share it on YouTube as a video where you can actually see me, or I share some slides. So I love that. And I feel so much more stable and grounded in my business since I have my podcast, because I know I am building my own house here. This is like my people that want to follow me. And along with that, also my email newsletter. And again, once you have a podcast, it's also nice to start your own email newsletter, because at least once a week you have some content you can talk about. Now, the next benefit number 3 with a podcast, is that you connect with amazing humans. So one, people find your podcast and then they reach out to you and they either want to be on your podcast or you get invited to be on their podcast. And in my case, I haven't really counted. I didn't make my Excel sheet for it, but there are so many new collaborations and opportunities that have come through my podcast. And I love to connect. And this is something for any business, right? If you want to grow, if you want to be in the game for the long run, it's about nurturing your network. It's about learning new ways of doing business and connecting with other people that may teach you something, because I never know everything. I probably know almost nothing when it comes to the grand scheme of things. And it has enriched my whole journey in such a beautiful way. It has also given me so much confidence because now I have the courage to like reach out to people that in the beginning I would have been too shy to like, okay, who am I to even talk to people? And now I'm like, okay, I have a pretty established podcast. It has been around for 2 years right now. And this also, you guys, this gives you some credibility, because if you buy something from somewhere, right, and they're just open business yesterday, it's like, oh, okay, well, let's see. But if they have been around for some time, and that's where the thing comes in again with the consistency, you got to show up again and again. And it does take time to build the house. So connections are priceless, and you never know what else can come from this. For me, also has come other invitations to summits, and I think other business collaboration have come from my podcast as well. Like I said, I don't even know all the details, but it's an amazing breeding ground for new opportunities through the people that I have connected with. And some people that I have connected with, let's say 6 months ago, it could be that this turns into an opportunity later on this year. And it's just beautiful. It's so amazing. Now, the fourth benefit that I clearly see from having your own podcast and showing up on a consistent basis is that it really nurtures your creativity. It's like a playground for your creativity. And for me, that means that I get to play. I don't have a strict way of what I need to talk about on my podcast. Obviously, it's around the theme of slowing down. As you know, that's the name of my podcast, The Art of Slowing Down. And I talk a lot about human design and gene keys and the spiritual laws of the universe and the 64 gates and the gene keys as well. And, over time, this may change and evolve a little bit, but the overall arcing theme is there. And, I can also change, apparently, at some point, the name of my podcast if I want to. And I can experiment with, like I said, sometimes I just talk like I do right now, pretty much free flow. Sometimes I have a specific human design chart I talk about from a celebrity. Other times I share one of my personal stories. Another time I have somebody that I talk to and they share their stories. I'm more listening. And then I ask the questions, and we also look at their human design, and we can talk about all these different topics. And that has been such a gift to me, because I think in businesses, it's essential that we are being creative and that we try out new things and we give ourselves permission to express ourselves. And I think creativity is really about being your most authentic self, because creativity is not so much about, I'm a good painter or I'm a good artist, so to say. It's about being who you are. I think that's really for me what creativity is, and being authentic. And with that, I'm also realizing as I speak that this podcast has allowed me to speak my truth. And people often tell me like, yeah, you're so open. You just talk about all these things. And I think many of you that are listening, you may be still scared to talk about a lot of things that you deep inside think about all the time, because most of us humans, I have learned, not just because you are a four-line in human design. Honestly, this has helped me a lot understanding myself, but so many of us, I think almost all of us, we have a fear of rejection as humans. We want to please people. We want to keep people happy. We want to be liked. We want to be loved. We want to belong. And so often we hold back from speaking our truth which involves our creativity as well, because we don't want to be rejected. We don't want to be upset people. And what I have realized is that when I do that, I reject myself. And I don't want to lie to myself. I'm really big on telling other people, like, don't lie and speak the truth. But if I'm looking at myself, I have been lying to myself a lot in this lifetime. And that's why I'm so happy that podcasting has really helped me to be more honest, like brutally honest with how I feel, what I think, and may it ruffle some feathers. Yes. Are there some people that are not going to like it? Yes. Are there going to people that are going to unfollow me? Yes. Okay. But in the same time, this also opens up more space for the people that are really aligned for me. And this, again, also on social media, you're going to see this. The more creative you are, the more authentic you are, the more the people that are not really aligned for you, they will fall off. They may not like it, they may disagree. And then this makes space, just like when you get rid of old furniture, you make space for the new furniture to come in, for the right people to come into your life that are really aligned. And the way that I have been noticing this also in my client sessions is that at the very beginning of my business, I attracted more people where I felt like a lot of hard work, to be honest, you know? And now that I speak my truth more, that I allow myself to be more creatively, uniquely myself, I attract more and more people where sessions, coaching, running group containers, and all of that feels so much more effortless. It feels so easy. It feels so much more fun because it's my soul aligned group of people that are coming my way. So what an amazing benefit that is, right, of having your own podcast, because it asks you week in, week again to speak your truth, to be creative. Like even last night, I was like, what am I going to talk on my podcast tomorrow? And I was like, well, I have right now, the topic is really big about the easy podcast launch that's coming up. Let me talk about it because, yeah, I have already talked about it in my email, on my social media, but most people probably missed this. And this is another thing that I have learned. Just because you say one thing once, don't think that everybody will know it or that you're going to be a nuisance. Again, there's so much information on podcasts, on social media, everywhere. People probably didn't even hear what you said. And I have mentioned what I just said today on many social media posts. I have mentioned it on another podcast episode probably already. And sometimes we have to hear something over and over again until it finally clicks. And benefit number 5, which is probably one of the most amazing ones, I mean, they're all amazing, right, is your confidence may go through the roof. And this is really in essence, I didn't have the confidence I have today that I didn't have that 2 years ago when I started my podcast. I had all the fears, I had all the doubts. I probably re-recorded the first episode a million times. And I have come now to a place of like, you know what? I just trust whatever came through me is fine. And often, actually, when I felt that, let me not release this podcast episode because my energy wasn't up high, or maybe I said something the wrong way, or who wants to listen to this? Those podcast episodes were the most successful. So I found this really interesting, when my fears and my doubts kicked in and I felt like, no, let me hold this back. Let me not put this out into the world. Like, you have no idea whose life this may change, or maybe it's going to create this one mindset shift that they were waiting for, like this breakthrough moments where all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, finally. And it can totally change the trajectory of their life and the way that they're doing their business. And, confidence is not something that magically appears when you do like 1 million energy healing sessions. I thought that actually in the beginning. It comes from showing up. So this benefit also ties in with the consistency, obviously. The more you show up, the more you say and speak your truth, even though you have fears of what other people may think of you, you build a muscle. You build a muscle and you start to learn, your nervous system starts to learn that it's safe. It's safe to be you. And the more you show up, you keep saying the things you want to say, the stuff that lights you up, you could talk about all day long. But then once you stop a split second, you're little ego brain is like, well, but who's going to be interested in that? Who wants to listen to this? And then we hold back and we don't do the thing. So that has been such a gift for me. And it obviously has required me to step out of my comfort zone over and over again. And I like to always say, like, I stretch my comfort zone, because sometimes this, like, get out of your comfort zone can be a little bit frightening, in the sense that you feel like you have to do something like super scary. But if you just think about 1% or 5% doing something that you previously would not have been doing, that's how we grow. And we do something that makes us a little bit uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable not because it's wrong, but because it's something you haven't done before. It's unfamiliar. And anytime something is unfamiliar, our nervous system is like, I don't know this. I don't know if I'm going to survive. And this is why we tend to hold back. But as you keep massaging this muscle and keep stretching it, you grow and your confidence grows, and your nervous system starts to learn that it's actually safe to be creative, to be weird, to say the things that nobody else dares to say, to speak your truth, and to be blunt, to be honest, and all of that. And that also has obviously helped me. So now I could go on about benefit number 6, 7, and so on. It has helped me tremendously to overcome or get so much better with the fear of rejection, because I no longer not release an episode or say something also on social media because, oh, there may be a person that's going to disagree with me. The statistics of a likelihood that everybody's going to agree with me, I think, is zero anyway. So if I want to please everybody, I'm not ever going to get my truth out into the world. And I think the people that are really successful that I have been witnessing, they're the people that don't give a damn, and that just, they say the thing, and you can still say it nicely and lovingly. So as you can see, it's not just about, oh, I'm going to launch a podcast. And the program that we are embark on, the Easy Podcast launch, it's not with the main thing about, okay, how to make X amount of money. Because if you know me by now, I talk about money a lot as well. Every time I do something to make money as a main motivation, it doesn't really work, because there's pressure behind, and I kind of get disconnected from the joy and the pleasure. And when I focus more on the long term and showing up more consistently and doing what I truly enjoy, that's when also the okay, I'm back. I had to take a little mini break. Maybe you could notice it. I got a nice matcha latte delivered, which I love. So yes, as I'm speaking right now, actually, I am still in Seattle. It has been a beautiful week, actually really sunny here. I think I brought the sun from South Florida, but really, really cold, but I have been really enjoying it. So this was me sharing about podcasting, what I think all these benefits are. And as you could hear, right, there are actually so many more benefits. And if this speaks to you, obviously, right, if you feel like in your body, like, I don't want to do a podcast, then it's not for you. But if there's a part of you that really feels compelled to share your voice more and to use podcasting as a way to build a solid foundation for your business, and also just so having a podcast can be used in so many different ways, because you can transcribe it, you can create blog posts out of it, you can also put it on YouTube. There's so many different ways, and it can help you with content creation as well, because when you start to transcribe, so with AI, artificial intelligence, there's so many amazing programs out there right now that can create summaries for you for the podcast. And it's an amazing thing for content creation. So if you feel like you have been struggling with that as well for social media, and you're not coming up with ideas and stuff, podcasting is a beautiful way to support you with this as well. And if the Easy Podcast launch is for you, that's something I want to leave up to you. Let your body decide. I'm going to share, obviously, in the show notes, the link so you can read a little bit more. I also have a little video on the landing page as well. And we have a really nice group already together. I'm super excited. We are all conscious, introvert, highly sensitive leaders that are into all things human design. and Gene Keys. And we're starting on January 25th at 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is literally like 5 or 6 minutes when the official full moon in Leo is. So I find that very interesting, because Leo is all about self-expression and stepping more into the spotlight. And this is what this program is about. And I also consciously choose this program to be 12 weeks because honestly, the content itself, I could teach you that in 2 weeks or like in a self-study course. But I was like, okay, how are people actually gonna see results from a self-study course? I know for myself, I've taken so many self-study courses. I usually don't do much with it. I need weekly accountability and consistency and support. I just need that. Makes it so much easier. And then every week I can practice something, and then over time it becomes a habit. So this is why I've chosen the format of the program where we have 6 calls over the course of these 12 weeks. And in between, you have access to me in a Telegram chat where you can ask questions. You can also get inspired by other people in the group. And I'm here to support you, because putting a podcast out is not something that's going to happen in like a matter of 2 weeks. We want to do it in a way that feels good to you, where you actually start to practice it. So we can also work on moving through some of those fears that will come up along the journey. And as you can notice, I'm very, very excited about this. And I'm really excited for you to get more out into the world, because you have no idea of how many people there are that are just waiting to hear your unique voice and your unique perspectives. Because I think what's happening in this world today is that we have still too much of mainstream information and also opinions out on social media, on the internet. And it's really time to have more unique perspectives out there. So I think people are ready for that. And if you feel the call in your body, you know where to find me, where to find the course, or if it's just for you to continue listening to my podcast here, I absolutely love having you. And I want to thank you again for your loyalty and for tuning in and for letting me know how my podcast has also impacted your journey. And keep sharing with me. Like I said earlier, I absolutely love to hear that. And as always, I'm excited to be with you on the next episode, and I'm sending you all my love and all my blessings. Thank you for listening to this episode. And if you enjoyed what you heard today, then please subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. And if you also know someone that you know in your heart could benefit from listening to this podcast, then I invite you to please share and help me reach more conscious leaders so we together can create global impact. I truly appreciate you, and see you next time.